So many roads to go before the dawn. Just take my hand, don't let us come undone. You may not see the glow, but I see it shine. Keep holding on, cause we're too far from done. And I know you could be the one.
After tons of trials and errors, I finally have my Endgame Excalibur build suited for my playstyle. Since we are talking about endgame here, which basically means dealing with enemies with over 100 level, I tried to maximize the damage of Excalibur, and give it a bit of crowd control. I mean, right after diving into numerous solo endurance run in survival missions, I found out that modding for survivability isn't really practical at all. Even if you try to place as many survival mod on your Excalibur, you will still get one shot by enemies. Excalibur isn't built to take damage, instead, is built to deal damage. And with that, I think it's best to focus on building your Excalibur for tons of damage. Okay, so let's take a look at my Excalibur build first. First of all, don't mind the former. It took me several tweaks to finally tailor my Excalibur towards endgame. I don't want to grind and get another Excalibur, which is why I choose to former this instead, to the point that I got enough capacity to replace mods. Okay, let me begin to explain why I choose these mods for my endgame Excalibur. First is the aura slot. In the past, you may have seen me using steel charge or growing power in the aura slot, but now, I choose to have a dash polarity in the aura slot. I made this change because 1, I think corrosive projection is more useful. Especially when you are going with a team with 4 corrosive projection and 2 times coaction drift to totally strip enemy armors. Steel charge may give you some damage, but corrosive projection does give you armor reduction capability to the point that you can totally take away their armors. And, an enemy without armor in Warframe is just target practice. Also, I don't know if you guys notice this, but when I'm doing solo endurance runs, I find using enemy radar really helpful. It's kinda weird seeing enemies spawn really often when I have enemy radar on, compared to not having it. I definitely suggest that you try this mod when you are doing solo survival runs, so that enemies will spawn frequently. I think there's no need for this mod really. What I mean is, that's what should supposed to happen in survival runs, and it's really annoying that you need a mod to help you spawn enemies in this case. I will look to this more in my future videos, but for now, let's get back to my endgame Excalibur. For my endgame Excalibur, I choose to get that 180% power strength so I can proc status every time with my chromatic blade. Right after diving into numerous survival missions, I find out that for you to survive in endgame, you need to move and don't let the enemies hit you. Modding for vitality, steel fiber, quick thinking or any survivability mod is not really advisable for high-level endurance runs, as enemies will just one-shot you. There are many ways to survive without these mods, and I will tell you how later. Also, efficiency is really a big yes for endgame plays. I did add fleeting expertise, primed flow, and as well as streamline to this build to achieve that 175% power efficiency. Now I did remove primed flow in my build and tried to add stretch on it. The result were good, but I just can't keep up with the energy consumption. I was thinking of making my Excalibur mobile by blinding the enemies all the time and killing them with my exalted blade. It was fun until I bump into some leech Eximus and drained my energy in seconds. You can say that I can remove intensify and put stretch on it. And give my melee with some dual status mods to get that 100% status proc for my chromatic blade, but it doesn't work for me. Radial blind is a good CC but not reliable at some times. Take note that you can't spam this ability always, because there's a 5 seconds reuse delay, and radial blind will not affect enemies behind obstacles in the environment unless Excalibur has line of sight, or unless the enemy is aware of Excalibur within a short period of time. Which is why I find it less effective of a CC sometimes. Primed continuity to counter the negative effect of transient fortitude, and I also added redirection in my build. you can choose not to equip this mod, and replace it with duration, strength or even range mods, but don't ever put vitality or any other survival mods on it. Based on experience, shields, or more specifically, overshields, are the ones useful for high-level content. Now I'm mixing redirection with my handy Texan to get as much overshields as possible, perfect to serve as a safety net to absorb one blow from enemies like the bombards rockets. Texan is really amazing because not only that it will give you that vacuum ability, but it also gives you overshields with its molecular conversion mod. Also, Guardian mod and mire are quite helpful in long survival runs, so I strongly advise that you have this on your Sentinel. Another great way to survive in endurance runs are your specters. Specifically, those ancient healers and Osprey specters. Ancient healers does give you 90% damage reduction and as well as status and knockdown immunity. While Osprey specters gives you shields, perfect in building your overshields even more. When you have all these stuff, all you need is skills. I mean, don't expect that all of these things will save you. It may grant you survivability from 1 to 3 hits, but don't expect that you can tank enemy damage. You need to be wise and always keep in mind that enemies must not hit you. Okay, before I give some more tips on doing endurance runs, let us take a look at first the melee weapon I'm using for my Endgame Excalibur. Before we go deep to my weapon choices, I would just like to clarify that you can choose any weapons for Excalibur. You are not restricted to using sword weapons, as if you're worried that you won't get that passive. Don't worry, as you will still get it once you've activated Exalted Blade. Excalibur's Exalted weapon is a sword and you will always get that passive enhancement. Also, the stats of your melee weapons don't affect Exalted Blade. Only the melee mods that you equip affects your Exalted Blade. That being said, let's discuss now what is the melee weapon I'm usually using with my Excalibur. I've tested every possible weapons that could end up really great for Excalibur. In fact, this was the process that caused me a lot of delays. I've tried Zor weapons and found out that the Exodia Arcanes does work with Exalted Blade. Well, not exactly all, as Exodia Epidemic is not working anymore. But Exodia Contagion is. You can throw some projectile while using Exalted Blade and the damage is quite good. However, I think it's really impractical to use Zor weapons with Exodia Contagion on it for Excalibur, as we already have enough damage to kill enemies. Also, it's really dangerous to use this arcane for Excalibur and I don't want blowing up myself. I also tried a couple of weapons that has some innate status damage on it, like the Course Assist and Mire. The Course Assist corrosive damage don't seem to work with Excalibur, but the Mire does. So let me give a short demo here. We want to proc corrosive here, so we will choose blue for Excalibur's energy color, as we know that Mire has innate toxin damage. So let's test it against a level 125 corrupted bombards. As you can see, it procs corrosive damage. Upon testing all the possible weapons, I think that Mire is the only weapon that can be combined with Chromatic Blade. If I miss out a weapon though, please feel free to shout it out on the comment box below. But is Mire the best weapon for Excalibur? Probably not. I mean, it has a measly 3.5 toxin damage and that doesn't give any huge difference at all in my opinion. So what's the best weapon for Excalibur then? It's probably the weapon you like to use the most. That's the best melee weapon to use for Excalibur. Anyway, the only thing that matters are the mods on your melee weapon. In my case, I usually use my Silver and Aegis Prime for my Excalibur. It doesn't give any extra damage to your Exalted Blade, nor give you the defensive capability while using your Exalted Blade, but what it gives is some cool fashion frame. Well, one endgame that I like the most in Warframe is fashion frame. And it's a big plus for me seeing my Warframe looking good. For the mod setup, here's the usual build I have for my melee weapon. I have primed pressure point, spoiled strike and 390% status mods. I usually combine shocking touch and primed fever strike for corrosive. Then get North Wind and choose orange or red, or any color on my Excalibur's energy, which results to heat damage. Now this is for heavily armored enemies like the Grineers. For enemies like the Corpus, I just replace Shocking Touch with Molten Impact and then choose blue or any energy colors that results to electric damage, so I can have gas and magnetic damage on my Excalibur while facing this faction. I also have Condition Overload for more damage. Usually, you will proc 2 status on an enemy with this build. 3 if you decided to have Artax on your Sentinel, which procs 100% cold status. In addition, I also have Organ Shatter for more damage. I did place another 90% elemental mods on this slot, but the damage was nothing compared to having Organ Shatter on this build. And lastly, I have Primed Fury. Now this mod is highly debatable as most Excalibur players use Berserker instead of Primed Fury. I guess they don't have the mod yet, or they just think Berserker is much more efficient than Primed Fury. But in my opinion, this mod is more effective. I mean, I have Spoiled Strike in my build, which cost a lot of attack speed. I'm a guy who wants constant attack speed and not rely on Berserker to proc, so I can maintain the speed of my sword swings. It's basically personal preference, but I think it's a lot better to have Primed Fury on this setup. Now to make this setup even better, here are a couple of things that you might want to add on this Endgame Excalibur. Take note that these stuff aren't really needed, but you might want to consider getting these. The first few things are getting certain Arcanes for your Excalibur. On my Excalibur, I have Arcane Energize and Arcane Fury. Arcane Energize is really amazing for Excalibur as it makes this build a lot better in terms of efficiency. Now I'm planning to test out if a max Arcane Energize will suffice, and try to remove Streamline on my build. If you have a max Arcane Energize, I would like you to try this as well and let me know if it's good or not. Also, I have Arcane Fury for that extra melee damage every time my Exalted Blade does a critical. Now I have Arcane Strike in the past, but I am now satisfied with my current attack speed, so I just decided for more extra damage. In addition, I strongly suggest that if you are going with Excalibur, try to use the Mire Focus School. That extra elemental damage does help this Endgame Excalibur. If you are worrying about energy, then try to add some energy pizza on your loadout. Yes, I know that there's no other way to recover your energy, other than getting energy orbs while your Exalted Blade is active. But, energy pizzas are really handy in case your energy turns 0. Other than that, when you are on long survival missions, try to camp in one place that you don't need to worry about your back. There are a couple of Warframes that can take damage or even dodge damage, but Excalibur doesn't belong to that category. If you want to get past 2 hours in endurance runs as an Excalibur, then I strongly suggest camping. Just move in another spot if it's necessary, like in cases you need to activate life support. Just remember to utilize Radial Blind and as well as your first ability, which has some invincibility frames. So that's it. That's how I build my Endgame Excalibur. This is probably my longest video for this month, as I tried to be comprehensive as much as possible. Well, I have invested a lot of time and effort with this Excalibur, and I want you guys to know all the results on my experiments. I really enjoy Excalibur, and I can say that he is one of my favorite Warframe right now. The damage he can deal to enemies are really top tier, and he is a great DPS in team composition. I strongly suggest that you try out Excalibur and you try this endgame setup. Now I'm planning to do more in-depth videos on specific Warframes in the future. However, this doesn't mean that I will not do more Excalibur videos on the future. I will try to update my builds as much as possible and try to discover more builds for this awesome Warframe. I just hope that you find this video informative. Before leaving, please leave a like if you enjoy watching this video, and for first timers, you can join our grind team by simply clicking that big subscribe button below. Just remember to turn on the notification bell to receive daily Warframe videos from this channel. Oh, I almost forgot. Some of the members on the grind team did request my fashion frame for Excalibur, so I included it on this video. Enjoy my Excalibur fashion frame. Thank you so much for watching. Squad leader signing off.
We all live for the love. Even though we've only begun, we give it all for the love. I'm out of line, laying my arms across the line until I'm yours and you're mine. I put my heart on the line. I'm out of line, and I know that I'll be fine until I'm yours and you're mine. I put my heart on the line, my heart on the line. So many roads to go before the dawn. Just take my hand, don't let us come undone. You may not see the glow, but I see it shine. Keep holding on, cause we're too far from done. And I know you could be the one.